but I think you guys are going to be hard to follow. So, one of the funny things about this, I think you guys can hear, there's going to be a lot of common themes between all of our presentations out here. So let me start off a little bit by giving you my background. I'm married. My wife works here, which we talked about, Amy Troutman. Give me a show of hands how many people have her. Okay, so you guys should ask for extra credit in her class. And she also thanks you for keeping me away from the house tonight so she doesn't have to put up with me. So you guys should definitely get some credit for that. I have 2 children, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and a dog named Sparky, who's done about $5,000 worth of damage to our house. While I'm not working with the children, I enjoy doing volunteer work in my church. I'm also coaching youth sports, and then anything outdoors, whether it's golf, hunting, running, just basically I spend enough time indoors, I need to get outdoors. And you know, one of the things I think one of the gentlemen mentioned tonight, I think is important, doing volunteer work. When I was early on in my career, I guess it was actually during an internship I had, one of the gentlemen came and talked to us and said, early on in your career, you're not going to have a lot of money to give to charities and to do volunteer stuff, but what you should do is give your time. And I highly recommend that you guys do that now in college and continue that out throughout your career. You'll definitely get a lot out of it, and it'll help you in the future. So I'd like to hope you guys learn that. If you don't learn anything tonight, learn that. Okay, so how did I start off? Well, like these gentlemen, I grew up in a small town in New Mexico, Haas, New Mexico. And during my formative years was during the early 80s. And I watched my friends who were going away on private jets and had all the big houses and big cars move into apartments because there was a huge bust in the oil field. And I knew right then that I didn't want to always rely upon a company to make my living, that I had to go out and make my living on my own. So I knew that early on I had to get some type of business degree because somehow down the road you could definitely use a business degree, whether it's going and working for a company or starting your own business. So I went to school at New Mexico State University in Las Cruces, New Mexico. How many people even know what the mascot of New Mexico State is? Okay, good. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter where you go to school, you can eventually make your way. So I graduated from Mexico State University, and I had to work to get a job out of there because not everybody goes down and recruits in New Mexico State University. So kind of like you, instead of the job boards being filled, I had to start calling around accounting firms. Luckily, I had a good GPA, and I landed a job with Coopers & Lybrand in Dallas, Texas, which eventually became PricewaterhouseCoopers. I started off as a staff accountant, and I think we had about 40 people in my class. 13 people from Texas A&M, 13 people from University of Texas, another 6 people from SMU, another 6 people from TCU, and this kid from New Mexico State. So when the jobs came available, everybody got picked for a job, and I was kind of there on the sidelines because no one knew the kid from New Mexico State. So I didn't get the sexiest job to start off. I got the jobs that nobody wanted. And I look back at my career, and that's the greatest thing that could have happened to me. The reason being on that, I went and worked very hard. I took the jobs no one wanted to take, and I turned them into being good jobs. So those are the jobs that everybody wanted. And people started recognizing me because of that. And because of that, I got a lot of variety to work on different types of jobs. One of the jobs I got that nobody wanted was, there was this company, and they were going out and acquiring lumber yards all over the United States. Who would want to go out and spend their time in lumber yards when we had clients like Oryx? When we had clients like Arco Energy, when we had clients like ExxonMobil, everybody wanted those big name jobs. But what I had the fortune of going out and doing was going around to all these little small lumber yards and helping this company do a lot of M&A work, and they grew from 0 in revenue within 3 years to $2 billion in revenue. So I got to go out and work with a CFO on a daily basis. And what that ended up doing for me is it got me early promoted to manager at PwC. And while I thought that was a great thing, I'll give some advice on this in a second. I did an excellent job of managing up, but I forgot to manage down. I was not a good boss. That's very important what you say about learning how to manage people. So while I did a good job and I got early promoted, it wasn't going to be sustainable because people did not want to work for me. I was one of those guys he talked about that nobody liked because I cared about me, and I cared about getting promoted, and I didn't care about the people I worked for. And I had to learn early on in my career, I got a 360 evaluation. Does anybody know what a 360 evaluation is? What's a 360 evaluation?
Just because we have them at my company, for us, we have terms used to have this now called 10-10s, where it's 10 minutes about you, 10 minutes about them, 10 minutes about whatever you want for improving.
Well, it's kind of like that, but what it is people above you give evaluations and people below you give evaluations. So I read the people above me, and I sure did feel good about myself. I was the best thing you'd ever seen. And I read the ones below me, and I said, they got the wrong guy. The thing about it was pretty unanimous. Nobody wanted to work for me. So it was a very big punch in the stomach, and I had to learn early on how to turn that around. And one of the things I had to learn how to do was listen. I had to learn how to listen to people when they gave me answers and solutions. I had to listen to that. I had to give the people the credit for the work they were doing. And when the job didn't go right, I think you mentioned right there, that wasn't on my back. It wasn't on those people's backs. Because ultimately the decision lied with me and not the people that did it. I had the final decision. And I was the one that did not make the good decisions. So when you go out there and you start managing people, make sure you listen to people, make sure you reward the people, and you can do the small things. You don't always have to do it financially. You can tell the people thank you. You can recognize some of the things they're giving up. If they're giving up family time, tell them you appreciate you giving up that family time. You know, there's the small things you can do to reward your employees. So anyways, with that start, I guess from there, I went on to a partner. In fact, you might know him, Dennis Chinnings, who was your partner in your account for years. He retired from PricewaterhouseCoopers, and this was during the time period of the Enron stuff when they started the Public Company Accounting and Oversight Board. How many people have even heard of the Public Company Accounting and Oversight Board? All right, we got a few people in here. What that was is people that would go out and audit the audit. So Dennis called me and he said, hey, I'm starting this up. What do you think about it? This will basically give you a niche up and help you make partner. Why don't you come do it for 2 years, you go back to the firm and make partner? I said, that's a great idea. I think I ought to do that, Dennis. And kind of in the back of my mind, kind of being a little bit greedy, I said, what better place to go to find out what your enemy's doing than to go work for your enemy? So I went in there and I did that for about 2 years. And while I was working there, one of the gentlemen I worked with called me into his office one day and he said, hey, I negotiated us a job offer today. So I said, who's us? You have a mouse in your pocket? He said, no, me and you. I said, who'd you negotiate a job offer with? He said, Celanese Corporation. I said, who's Celanese Corporation? The $6 billion company I never heard of that I drove by every day for about 5 years. So he said, we're going to start a technical accounting group. I want you to come over. I said, okay, let's go do this. So started working there, and about 4 or 5 months into it, we had an accounting issue, and it was a very difficult issue. And we were going to basically, by doing this, we were going to delay our earnings and potentially not make our earnings. So the next day I get to work and the CEO is sitting there in my office. And I was like, okay, this is where the whole corporation, being nasty corporation, comes down. The CEO says, you're going to do this, you're going to sign off on it, I don't care, and it goes on the fire. So I walk in, he said, hey, who was working on this accounting issue? I said, that was me. He said, okay. He said, were you the one that made this difficult decision? Yes, sir. He said, well, I want to thank you. So I took a step back and I said, why do you want to thank me? He said, one, I want to thank you for having the guts to stand up to these people. And then two, you make me sleep better at night doing the right thing. He said, when you don't do the right thing, it'll eventually catch up to you. Look at the Enrons of the world. Look at the MCIs of the world. It eventually is going to catch up to you. So always do the right thing. So I said, okay. He said, now I got a second question for you. I said, what's that? He said, with this leadership ability and stuff, why are you an accountant? I said, well, because I guess I'm kind of good at it, and that's basically the only thing I can do. He said, no, we can go do other things. And he took me under his wing, and he gave me jobs managing different parts of the business. And lo and behold, about 3 or 4 years ago, he said, I want you to manage our cash. I said, okay. I said, well, I don't have any really management experience other than my 401k. He said, well, we got about $1 billion worth of cash. I think you can do it. And I was kind of sitting there going, okay, I think I can do this. But what I had to do, and it's kind of like you was talking about earlier, I had to rely on people.